What would you say to me saying I think this defense really, really, really misses Gregory Rousseau?
Um, I was thinking about it during the game because I saw someone talk about, like, could you imagine a rotation with those three guys, like those three ends? And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how that would look and what that would be like, because I don't think there's any stretch. Like, I think one of the easiest statements you can make about this Miami team, about what we saw today and last week, is that the best player on the defensive side of the ball is Jaelan Phillips. I think has been absolutely outstanding, phenomenal. Like, there's nothing that he hasn't done that I would say, man, I wish he would have, I wish he could have. He's been fantastic, and I mean that like on a play to play level. There, like last week, I went back to look at the defensive line specifically just to see how things were developing, because I wanted to see like Harrison Hunt and some of the other young guys. And then you watch just Phillips play to play, and like he does his job every single play. Like he's always pushing the tackle back. Like that right tackle for Louisville, when he doesn't get drafted in a couple years, like the NFL teams might as well just send him that, like say, hey, do you remember that game against Phillips? That's a pro you played against, and he did that to you. That's why you're not getting drafted. But like, so let's just say Rousseau's there, right? If Rousseau's there, Phillips or Rousseau is probably going to have to either play right end. So what happens with Roche? Or Rousseau plays inside at defensive tackle, which he did in spurts last year and was really effective when he played inside, like in the FSU game a lot. So if he plays inside at tackle, which I think would make us the strongest, I think it would be this defensive line would be the best in the country. Like, and I say that confidently, knowing how good some of the defensive lines are. It would really depend on how they wanted to use those three, I think, for me to say that, because I wouldn't want to take Phillips off the field for a snap if I didn't have to. So that's the one piece I'd have to know, like, is how it would look, because I don't think taking Phillips away, like if I don't even know, honestly, and it sounds crazy, I don't even know if I would trade Phillips for Rousseau. And I know it seems like sacrilege to say it. I don't even know if I would do that.
You're talking crazy now.
Talking
crazy now, Chris.
When we get to April, and people start talking about the draft, and that there's going to be some talk coming before then that maybe this Phillips kid from Miami is a better prospect.
No. You think Phillips is going to be drafted over Rousseau?
I think if he plays like the way he did today, the rest of the season, I think he's a top 15 pick. And if Rousseau does all the stuff he's supposed to, and like he tests well and all that, and like depending how the combine and everything looks, and people still love that tape from last year, even with the missed year, he's going top 15. That means we got two guys up there. Now, where they fall, I think depends on the fit and the need for the teams. Like, I think they're very different players. So it's not as easy to say like he's edge one, he's edge two. I think they're very different with what NFL teams will want to do, but I do think it's possible that Phillips could get picked higher than Rousseau, just because he was tremendous, and he's been tremendous, and he's just physically so dominant of a player. Personally, like he looks like peak. I remember when Michael Strahan was really like dominant out there on the end. Like Michael Strahan always played that left end spot too for the Giants. He reminds me of Michael Strahan when Michael Strahan was really like playing good football up in New York.
Yes, I do remember that. Okay. So I think I'll be the first one to say, I think I've mentioned this to you before. I'm a see it to believe it type of guy, and I heard a lot about Jaelan Phillips. And last weekend and this week, he just really keeps. I'm watching this kid play, and I'm saying this kid is a beast. But. Yeah. But one, I'll say this. He's not getting drafted over Gregory Rousseau. I'll say that right now. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. He's not better than Gregory Rousseau. I'll say that right now. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. And where I feel like if we had Gregory Rousseau on this roster, one, I think that's going to make Jaelan Phillips better. Yeah. Two, I feel like Gregory Rousseau was really good against the run. When you really look at some of his plays, a lot of his plays he made, he reset the line of scrimmage. He's driving tackles, guards, into the backfield, and he's in the backfield before some of those offensive linemen even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing is, and maybe I'm reaching when I say this, but I think if we had a Gregory Rousseau, our secondary wouldn't look as bad. Our secondary is getting a lot of slack. They're giving up a lot of passes, and I think they deserve. I think if somebody said, Grant, our cornerbacks is our weakest position, or our secondary is our weakest position, I wouldn't really debate or argue with you, because I think Cam on the defensive line played good. I thought Nesta played good. I thought Phillips played good. The linebacking core, I still got some questions about. But our cornerback positions is what I'm really worried, especially when you go up against the Clemson receivers. Those guys are polished and ready to go, and you're going to get a quarterback who's going to throw the ball right on the money to those receivers. But I think even when I look back at the UAB game, DJ Ivy, and everybody knows how hard I am on DJ Ivy about his play. I don't know if those quarterbacks have that much time with the Gregory Rousseau and the J.J. Phillips on the same defensive line, or with him in the middle. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when Rousseau left, a lot of people said, well, it doesn't matter because we have a lot of defensive line people who can step into his position. Well, I think it does matter, because if we have a dominant defensive line, maybe our secondary isn't guarding as long as they are, because obviously I don't know if they can hold up to guarding top-tier wide receivers long. What would you say to that?
Well, yeah, I think for sure. I think if you put him in there, and like, let's say you did put him at defensive tackle, or he played a lot of snaps at D tackle, I think, number one, it makes the linebackers immediately better, because if I saw a major weakness from the linebacking core, it's that they reacted slowly. They got caught up in blocks quite a bit. Like, there was a couple plays where Jennings and McLeod just put themselves out of the play because they reacted too slowly. A lineman got up to them, and that was it. And they were gone. So, and the Louisville offensive line is they're smart about it. They run that kind of outside zone scheme. Their running back is tremendous when it comes to finding like those open spaces on the move. So I think if you have Rousseau in there, it's a lot harder to control the interior. Not that our defensive tackles played bad, but like you said, his length, his athleticism, he's a very hard person to push back immediately off the line of scrimmage. Kind of like Phillips was, where Phillips was able to get a lot of push on the right tackle and force Cunningham to make plays either to his left or step up and then a go around. I think Rousseau would definitely add a ton. And for sure, yeah, you add Rousseau back to the team, like a guy of that skill level, we're going to definitely be better. I do like the other side of it, that if there was a position to lose a guy, that's probably the one that makes sense too, just because, I think our defensive line, as you mentioned, is by far and away our best position group. And like on the defensive side of the ball, it's so far and away better than the others that it's hard not to see it play after play after play. But like you said, you mentioned before about the linebackers and the DBs. I would say if, between linebackers and DBs, I think the linebackers are the bigger concern for me, because I don't think they really know what they have after 2 games. I don't think they know who they trust the most. I don't know if they know who they like to be paired up together. At least at DB, like, it's going to be Blades. He's going to do well. Like, he'll make a mistake here or there, but he's pretty consistent. And you have Bubba Bolden, who seems like he is that kind of explosive open field tackler that you're really hoping for from a safety. But I really don't know, like, if there's one linebacker that I'm like, oh, I trust him for sure, which is scary, because, 2 weeks in, I thought we would have at least one guy we're like, all right, we could put it on him, and then the other spot and the striker spot, we'll kind of see how it works out. But 2 weeks in, I don't think I know much more than I did when we started.